Hey everyone. Looking at the price today, it looks like Bitcoin has gone up just a tiny bit. So, yay, but still nothing dramatic. Still moving sideways within these lines obscurely drawn here. So, good news. I guess it's bounced off this 650-day close, line, but it's done that, once or twice before. So really, just not a whole lot going on. But we start with price, and we'll also end with price. So. Let's move on. But as I was thinking about the price and looking at the price of Bitcoin today, while also setting up my node, which you should also set up a node if you haven't done so. It's not easy, let me tell you, or cheap. But I was thinking, what is the size of Bitcoin, right? This, I think, is an inaccurate graphic in terms of the number of individuals that they say are involved in the Bitcoin space. However, I think the distribution is accurate, so that's why I am including this. So you kind of see like the number of people in each category based on how much Bitcoin that they own, right? So you have these whales down here that have anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000, Bitcoin, and then humpbacks and exchanges at 2.3 million Bitcoin or something like that, which there's no date on this graphic here, so I don't know how up to date it is or how up to date it thinks it is. Because I don't know. I don't think there's actually 2.3 million Bitcoin on exchanges anymore. I think we're way down from there. So just to move on, I was thinking, like I said, about the size of Bitcoin, like how big is Bitcoin, and here's the breakdown, obviously, and it says that there's anywhere between 22 million individuals, which is roughly the equivalent of Australia. This confused me because I thought it was referring to shrimps, which are, I guess, this graphic or portion here, the 900,000. But clearly, there's more than that. There's got to be more than 900,000 people living in Australia. But the total number of people is what got me interested, and so I was looking around and I found this other metric that said there's anywhere between there's 400,000 daily users and up to 110 potential individual Bitcoin owners, and I don't know how. I mean, I've heard a couple of people bring up over the $100 million number. So that's just kind of what I'm running with right now. But if you were to use that, you could compare it to the size of other countries, right? So if Bitcoin were a country, like it would roughly be the size of Egypt down here, at a little over 100 million people if you went on the high end. That's already like the 14th, 15th largest country in the world, right? So as Bitcoin gets adopted by more and more people, it's obviously just going to go up this list here. But, that's a third of the size of the United States. Or if you want another metric, it's like 3 times the size of Canada, which I thought was interesting. So Bitcoin is not small by any means. And then I started to think, well, where is Bitcoin? So, these are obviously just numbers of people. But then you start to think about, okay, well, here's, the mining distribution. And I guess as a percentage of, you can kind of tell where the miners are. It's a little bit harder, I believe, to tell where the addresses. Actually, I think it's a lot harder to tell where the addresses are located because you have to find an IP address. And that's kind of like the point is, not linking the, Bitcoin address with your IP address and therefore obscuring where exactly your location is. But a lot of these miners that, are stationary, aren't always allowed that luxury. And so we're able to find out exactly, where the mining is. And so, with the ban in China, we can obviously see that there's no hash rate in China. So this map, I don't know if it's live, but it's relatively up to date. But it shows you what I thought was also interesting. It shows you where, across the world mining is taking place. And not all countries in the continent of Africa are at zero. You've got a few, like let's go over to Egypt like you were talking about, that has 373 petahashes. That's not a small number. That's 0.17% of the whole, world supply of hashing power for Bitcoin. And its neighbor Libya also has a high amount of hashing power. So it's distributed, but I will say that between 4, maybe 5 countries, over 70% of the hash power is between the United States, Canada, Russia, and Kazakhstan. And then, I believe that was most of it, because everyone else was less than 5%. Yeah, because the only one that other came close was Iran at 3%. You have Ireland and Germany are both, roughly 4.5%. So it's, between these three, 10% right there. So it just kind of shows you where, all of the hashing power is taking place and who has Bitcoin, who doesn't, where it's concentrated. So roughly a lot of the developed world, as you might say, has Bitcoin, and then a lot of the, besides China and, somewhat India, of the underdeveloped world, what we might consider third world countries, what their status of Bitcoin adoption is just based on this map. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But in terms of when we talk about Russia and, the people that are involved in, what's going on in their neighbor Ukraine and, the thing that's going on there, Binance has, and this is one of the reasons why they, say, please take your Bitcoin off exchanges. So Binance, an exchange, has blocked the crypto accounts of relatives tied to the Russian government. So if they're unable, if these Russian oligarchs or Russian citizens or, Russian people who, may have nothing to do with, what's going on in Ukraine, get blocked out via, an address blacklisting of some sort, then, it's very hard for them to transact, with, a lot of people, or at least through Binance. If they wanted to cash out in some sort of way or make transactions or trade, they have to do it P2P, person to person, peer to peer, in order for them to, make any moves, or if they want to try and do some sort of coin mixing service or something like that. See, I think coin mixing is going to be very popular in the future. I think it's becoming very popular now. Look into Samurai Wallet, Whirlpool, coin mixing, coin blending, those kinds of terms. That way you can, if you do have KYC coins like myself, then you will eventually hopefully be able to mix them with other people that have KYC coins, and thereby obscuring hopefully the amount or where your Bitcoin has gone. So the idea is, perhaps you still accumulate Bitcoin that is KYC because you have to buy it off an exchange, or perhaps you can mine it at home. But it's easier, for me personally, just to buy it off of an exchange versus to mine it at home. But if you're lucky to do so, then I would suggest mining at home, because that's basically free, not free, but KYC free Bitcoin. So that's just one other reason, please take your Bitcoin off of exchanges. Because you might get blacklisted, and there's all sorts of problems that go on with exchanges just apart from something like this. This is far-fetched. If you're like a U.S. citizen or something like that, you would think that this could never happen to me. But, apart from just regularly Coinbase going down from a Super Bowl ad, they also have the potential to block you out of your assets, just like Binance has shown that they do. Moving on. Recently, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger came out with some statements in some conference or whatever he was doing or giving, and he wouldn't buy all of the Bitcoin. If you sold it to me for $25, he wouldn't take it. He's called it rat poison squared. I just think it's funny, this guy that, so I don't think he actually knows or has used a computer or a smartphone. I could be wrong about that, but I believe he just conducts all of his trades via paper. He tells people what to do, what he wants to invest in, and that's how he makes his investments. I think one of his more famous investments that he made was that he did a transaction with the owner of Nebraska Furniture Mart, this old woman from Eastern Europe or something like that. I forget what it used to be called, but they just had a conversation and he bought it on a handshake or something like that. I believe that's basically the gist of the story. But, he's not a technologist. He doesn't understand technology. So I don't understand why people get such in an uproar when somebody who doesn't understand technology says that they wouldn't invest in it or they wouldn't buy it. Like, yes, he's a very rich person, in the fiat world, but we're moving away from the fiat world. We don't, let him die on his own. He'll go and he'll do his own thing. The old system, they can have it. We don't need them. We don't need, when he passes away, the people that take care of his money are going to invest it in other assets, and as them being younger people are probably going to be more open towards something like Bitcoin and other crypto assets or Bitcoin miners or, in ETFs, spot ETFs of Bitcoin and such and so forth. So it's just a matter of time where his money will flow into Bitcoin and all fiat will, not all fiat, but a lot of, US dollars will become more or less valuable, less valuable in the future. Also, moving on. Just some other news stories today. Uzbekistan president issues decree regulating cryptocurrencies, mining and trading. Great. Ooh, ah. I didn't say anything in here about taxes or anything like that, but it's really not actually that great because they're forcing KYC because there is a ban, so you cannot have any anonymous cryptos. I'm not exactly how they're going to enforce that, how they're going to be able to enforce people stopping from one person to sending an anonymous transaction to another person, even within the country or, just down the street. I don't know how they're going to prevent something like that. I could see that they might be able to use to tell an exchange to prevent them from, interacting with, certain addresses that they're unfamiliar with. I could see that potentially. But once you have Bitcoin, then you can send it to whomever you want, and there's really not a whole lot that they can do or say about it. They might be able to track you if you're mining at home. I could see that being a possibility because people get busted from growing weed at home. So, just be careful, try not to, break any laws. This is peaceful resolution. So just do the best you can with, however, you feel about your government. Do whatever you feel is safe and necessary. So lastly, just to end on a positive note, BitMEX's co-founder has explained why Bitcoin price could reach 1 million by 2030. And I believe Kathy Woods also said this recently at the Bitcoin 2022 conference where, she said by 2030, the price of Bitcoin could reach 1 million. And that's if say there's 20 trillion of IRA investable assets, and if only 10% of that flows into, no, that's wrong. I believe there's 200 trillion because then 10% flows into Bitcoin, thereby creating, roughly $21 trillion worth of assets into Bitcoin. And, 21 trillion divided by 21 million is 1 million. So, there you go. It could happen. And, there's more than 200, there's like over $400 trillion worth of investable assets on the planet that could potentially, Bitcoin could tap into. And, the value of the world, I would say, increases every day. We create more products and are more productive, with everything that we do. So I could only imagine that Bitcoin would increase to not only capture the existing wealth on the planet, but then to help us create more wealth on this planet and then, beyond in the future. So that's just kind of some updates, some things that are going on in Bitcoin today. Hope you like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.